can we do a top 5? The subject topic being top 5 Mercedes errors over the last, let's say, do I even say? Yeah, let's go over the last 3 years. Let's contextualize it. I don't want to draw it back further back than that because it becomes a little bit more irrelevant. So we're going to do top 5. The way that we play this game, Nasha, we'll go 5 to 3, and then we'll go 2 to 1, of course, and then we've got to get a consensus, mate. Before we hang up the phone, the Zoom call today, we need to get consensus. So there'll be some arguing and some back and forth. So get your debating pen at the ready. Who's going to go first on this? 5 to 3. Have you got some at hand, Shez?
Yeah, I've got 3 I can give you. Yep.
So you got 5 to 3. Let's go. Let me get my cheeky Excel spreadsheet out so I can keep track of this. Go on, Shez, hit me.
Just to clarify, because we were given the topic beforehand, but I've gone broad strokes for a lot of these. Because I think there's stuff that Merck have been getting wrong that they need to get right. That's my pitch for this whole thing. That I think they just need to get stuff right.
I don't hate it.
And then there'll be gravy. So my first thing, actually, one last little
go on with your
caveat.
It's not caveat guy.
It's not a caveat. It's a set. It's a setting the scene thing.
Okay.
So remember, we were talking offline about how I try and categorize the things that a Formula One team need to do, right? So I've categorized all of these as well into. That's exactly what it is.
Non-technical. Although you don't.
Well, it's technical, political, and economic. So they're my 3 categories.
Oh wow.
Okay. So the first one is from technical, and it's an operational issue. My I don't even know if this is number 5. These get moved around anyway, don't they? So let's stick it in because it needs to go in somewhere. Pit stops. So pit stops for me are a big fat problem at the moment, and just reading around a little bit today, I realized it's deliberate. So this is a mistake that they're making on purpose.
What do you mean, Shez?
Andrew Shovlin, 2022. This is, I quote, we are prioritizing consistency over speed.
Oh my God, is he having a laugh?
Stops. Wait for it.
It doesn't get any worse than
Wait for it. He said that there's so much, that the weekend is so compressed and there's so much stuff to do to the car that we're spending all of our time getting the car ready that we then don't have enough time to do pit stop practice. So we are prioritizing consistency over speed. And I think I can think of at least one good example this season where the length of a pit stop could have ended in absolute disaster. And that was Canada, where he either would have been jumped by Alonso or ended up with a penalty if the stewards hadn't been being extremely lenient.
This is unbelievable. I can't believe that they would say something so daft. Genuinely, the mind boggles. What are you talking about, Shovlin? What are you on about? What are you talking about? Go on, sorry, Shez. I digress.
Not at all.
Pit stops was your 5th. Your 4th was?
Right. 4th, I'm going to go strategy, which has generally been conservative. I think this goes back to my notion that Merck is still stuck in that we are dominant. We have the fastest car by 5 seconds. We can whatever strategy we come up with, we're still going to win the race. They still have that mentality. And my specific example of that is Zandvoort last year, where again Lewis wasn't pitted under the full course safety car. Russell was, and they had the information from Silverstone that year that if you leave the lead car out on aging tires, they're just going to get swallowed up. And they left him out on aging tires, and he came 4th, I think, in the end, after challenging for the lead of that race. And and that was probably
they pitted Russell from behind
him,
well.
because he was asking to be pitted. But I mean, ultimately, that's not really the team should know what's going on.
Got to deal with that shit, bro.
Right. So and that comes on the back of, I know we're only going back 3 years, that comes on the back of Hungary 2020 and Austria 2018, both of which were fairly egregious victory losing strategy calls. So that's number 4 for me. And my final one, number 3, and I'm only putting this number 3 because I think 2 and 1 are pretty, they need to be in there. Communication, and they've now done this twice this season. Communication to their drivers during qualifying led to the collision between George and Lewis in Barcelona. And then again, yeah. I'm really being generous to George here. I really am.
Communication error,
like super generous, because it happened. It happened again, obviously in Spa. Though that really was down to George just turning in. But Hungary this year, they obviously left George out of Q1 by. They seem to have this thing in quali where they know that they don't have a car that's quick enough, so they always want to come out right at the end of the session when the track is at its best. But it leaves them no leeway in terms of, like, if there's a yellow flag or a red flag, that they don't have any margin, and it's caught them out like too often. So that's 5 to 3 for me. My top 2, I think I'm pretty happy with, and we can argue about them.
Go on and Nasha, talk to me. 5 to 3.
I feel like a lot of my ones are like strategy errors, to be honest. We talk about like mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mercedes includes Lewis, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna say that one of them was Bahrain 2020, which essentially cost George the opportunity of the drive of a lifetime win twice, by the way. Not once, but twice. And I just think, oh no, but he got punctured the second time, right? You got punctured. But anyway, the fact that they put the wrong tires on, and then like putting the wrong, that's some Ferrari shit. But how are you messing up this young guy? He's been driving a tractor this whole time. You put him in a car, he absolutely duppies Bottas. You pit him. You give him the wrong tires, bro. Like, that is heartbreaking. And also, I guess, you know what, actually, maybe I'll just say the 2020, you know what, scrap that. The 2020 season strategical errors, which cost Mercedes winning every race.
Mate. Because
they would have won every race. Monza, pitting Lewis under a closed pit lane. Russia, who the fuck told my man to start from the fucking, I don't know, but Lewis would have won that race, obviously. And then we've got Bahrain, where obviously pretty much sealed Perez's drive with Red Bull potentially. So who knows? In a what if Mercedes just got their fucking shit together, who knows what would have happened? Maybe would have won 21. But it's, for me, 2020, I think if you were watching those mistakes, you would have seen what was to come in 21 and what we've seen in 22 and 23. Now the car isn't as good. And I think those races where we didn't win, we probably could have won if we hadn't tripped up over ourselves. You know, the W11 was good enough to win every single race, and we kind of beat ourselves out of it. So my first answer is the 2020 strategical errors. Yep. My second answer My second answer. Oh God, all of these are like strategical.
So number 4. So you're giving number 5. 2020
Yeah,
strategic errors.
2020
not winning any
strategic
race.
errors. Number 4. Okay, how do I order this? Not adequately replacing Niki Lauda
Oh my gosh, he's gone in. He's gone in.
is what
Yes.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah, now we're talking.
There is a vacuum in that team, and there needs to be a good cop, bad cop. It can't all be on Toto. The structure, I think, has been lacking since Niki left. You need someone that's just going to go to the media and just say whatever they want to say. And Niki would say some outlandish things, but he would always say it straight and true. And he wasn't beholden to shareholders. He wasn't beholden to whatever, and he would be able to bollock George after whatever he just pulled the other day. George needs someone like Niki Lauda. I'm not going to lie. Just to bring him in line. If Niki Lauda can bring in line Lewis Hamilton in getting towards the peak of his ascendancy in F1, if he can bring in line Nico Rosberg, who was essentially the golden child of Mercedes before Lewis turned up, then he could bring George in line. And I just think that voice after 2021 was sorely missing. And for me, I just think it's been a mistake to not get someone of that ilk in that can play good cop, bad cop. And I think there's a power vacuum in Mercedes.
Oh, very well said, sir.
This is a guy who's speaking my language.
I know.
You
So
know
that's
this.
So Nasha, I've got as your number 5, 2020 strategic errors. Your number 4 is Niki Lauda replacement. Do you have a number 3? Shez, by the way, remind me of your number 3, please.
Oh God,
Comms, you did say comms.
Yeah, communication.
Communications or lack thereof. Nasha, have you got a number 3 for me? I think you guys are missing out. There's dozens on my list that you guys are missing out, by the way.
Well, it's because a lot of mine were
strategy.
Like
do you want me to
strategy?
Let me
so
go.
You go.
I'll go.
You go, because I'm happy to just leave it there.
I'm gonna give you. There are ideas. Plenty.
I'm happy to leave it there.
Go on and there's a couple worthy mentions first and foremost, and some of them you guys have talked about. So comms first and foremost, the lack thereof. What was that bloody apology, the letter of apology about the other day? Just an example. That thing that you just read out there, Shez, is chaos, bro, from Shovlin.
That letter of apology.
That's nonsense. So what are we doing here? We're communicating like we're winners and 8-time constructors championships, or we can. Are we communicating as if we are losers in perpetuity? What are you talking about, Shovlin? You don't have resource, the practice pits. Get the lads to spend the flipping Sunday and get the 1,000 reps in like Ferrari did. This is ridiculous. Second worthy mention, not signing a Dutch fellow called Max Verstappen.
I don't know.
That's going to come back to haunt them. No, we can disagree. Having it. We can disagree, but that's why it's on worthy mentions. I was tempted, Nasha. That could have been my number 5. But
sorry, Mercedes should have signed Max Verstappen.
Of course, they should have. Are you joking? The next one,
Lewis would have crushed him.
Lewis. Well, I'm not saying that Lewis wouldn't have crushed him.
He would have crushed him,
like forever, destroyed him.
He would have destroyed him. He would have look. Let's go back to Verstappen before 2019.
Before you go on to this, Nasha, I just want you to clarify what you mean. I'm not saying that Max Verstappen would have come in and beaten Lewis Hamilton, but you're saying that he would have destroyed Max Verstappen's career, right? Is that what we're saying here?
You're forgetting that even up into 2018, the first 5 races of 2018, Max Verstappen had a collision in like every fucking race, bro. Like they were going in on him. He still wasn't fully developed. It wasn't until after. So what I'm saying to you is, in one of Rosberg had to lock himself in a hotel. Okay. As a fully formed adult, had to lock himself in a hotel because Lewis was dunking on him. 14, battling freaking Bahrain. What people always forget is Lewis was on much older tires. he would have bullied the 16-year-old Verstappen, bro. Like
See,
him allowing him to grow at Red Bull was the best thing for
Yeah.
his career.
Yeah, but now-
Shez, before you go on this, here's what I'd say, Nash. I hear you, bro. I hear you. We'll never know ultimately.
We'll never know.
But here's my take, right? When you see the way that Lewis handles George with kid gloves, even the reluctancy with which he kind of did the half signal and then
that's Lewis now. That's not Lewis in 2016, bro.
Okay.
Remember Lewis in 2016? Like, this is not Kumbaya Lewis now. Mate, this guy was on Snapchat doing the madness.
Yeah,
this guy was in press conferences. He said to Vettel, if that's how he wants to prove he's a man, then maybe we should prove he's a man out of the car. He said that in the pen.
Yeah, he was.
We're not talking about love and light Lewis. We're talking about like, I'm here to absolutely ruin your career. He did that to his best friend, by the way. True. Some little Dutch kid from round the way. He's gonna smash him. I'm sorry. Like, that's not Verstappen's lucky he didn't go to Mercedes. Respect.
But Lewis and Nico were contemporaries, right? They both came up together. So if Nico gets destroyed by Lewis, that is his. That's it for him, right? Whereas it's a different situation right now. I mean, Russell is getting shown the way home by Lewis right now, right? In both qualifying and race results, he is being shown how to drive that car, but that doesn't mean that at the end of the season, if Lewis were to retire tomorrow, that Russell's career is over.
Shez. He would have got Van Dorned, bro.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
telling you,
that is chaos, Nash.
He would have got Van Dorned.
I don't.
Back in
he's what. All right then, Nash. Here's what they do.
He was a teenager.
No, agreed. But so
you're talking about Verstappen now.
I know, agreed.
Verstappen then was not.
But check
that
this,
guy.
Nasha. Look, if you're okay, I'm gonna put my Toto Wolff Mercedes Petronas AMG chair cap on for a second. Those execs, whatever way you do, right? Maybe you don't bring him in at 28. Like maybe you just keep him like they did George, send him to Williams or something, but keep him on the program. They will look back, guaranteed, chaps, not now, but in like 5 to 10 years' time, when they had the opportunity to sign the next one, the next generational talent, whatever that means, after Lewis Hamilton, and didn't do it, whatever which way you want to do it, Nasha. Maybe you do delay. I don't know how you do it, but to not do it, absolutely,
it was never going to happen.
Fair.
For the precise reason you mentioned it. Sorry, and normally, you know I love you, bro. Normally you talk like normally the way you talk is, I love you. The reason he went to Red Bull is precisely for what you're talking about. Mercedes wanted to put him in the program. Red Bull were like, we will literally stick it. We will put you in a Toro Rosso now. Yeah, we don't even care how you're doing in F3. We don't care that Ocon's dusting you. We'll put you in a seat now. And you know what? Out of all of the things, he is essentially the reason why they don't actually have to do the Red Bull Junior program anymore is because they've won. They've done it. What they wanted to find in that junior program, they found it with Vettel, and then they re-upped and they found it with Verstappen. That is crazy. And I'll always respect the Red Bull Junior driver program for that. The amount of drivers that have come through that program, even if they've not made it, that are in the sport or have made a career for themselves in motor racing is unreal. And for them to have bet on this guy was in fucking braces when they put him in that seat, and then to put him in the fucking car in Barcelona, that's not even mid-season, by the way. Chaos. And for him to then go on and win, honestly, I respect Red Bull so much for that. Mercedes would never do that. But also, when you've got the greatest driver of all time driving for you already, you're gonna. And at that time, they had him and Nico Rosberg, bro. Like, there's no room at the inn. That ship had sailed. That ship had sailed. Bro.
I think it's a mistake. And the joke is, as we're back and forth in it, chaps, I'm not sure whether I need to take that off of my worthy mentions and drop it clean on the list and argue for it being on the top 5. In fact, you know what the joke is, lads? But I've got some bankers is the issue.
Go on.
You know what? I'm putting it on there, lads. I'm going to argue the toss. Not signing Max Verstappen. If you're talking about future and long term, that's one of the biggest. That is absolutely one of the top 5. So I'm doing a switcheroonie. Signing George Russell, chaps, is one of my worthy mentions. He was on my top 5. Yeah.
So you signed Max Verstappen,
yeah,
but you wouldn't sign George Russell.
Let me explain why I think. Let me explain why I think that's an error. I don't think George Russell, comparatively, let's compare and contrast. Yeah, I think George Russell, as brilliant as he is, and I don't think he's generational in that sense as far as his talent. Yeah. So again, we've talked about this a gazillion times, Shez. Driver hierarchy is important. If you have a Lewis Hamilton, Peter wins the settings. Do you need yourself a George Russell? Only in the sense that he is inherently antagonistic in everything that he does, right? A killer. We saw the incident with Hungary, with Bottas. We've seen him bloody overtake Aitken and nearly kill both of them. He's just got that in his nature, right? If there's a bod that you need in that car because of his intergenerational talentness, Max Verstappen is the guy. George Russell is too antagonistic, Nasha and Shez.
George Russell's antagonistic, but you want to stick Max Verstappen in there?
What I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. No, let me explain it. No, all right, I'll explain it to you. There is a level of talent. This is the old Ron Dennis thing, right? There is a level of talent with which you will accept a certain level of antagonistic. What I'm saying to you, I don't think George is at that level sufficient to where I, as a team principal, will tolerate the level of antagonism that he brings. Max Verstappen, on the other hand, you got to
I don't agree. I don't agree with that, man. No.
Max and Nico in the same team caused some of the worst friction we've ever seen in a Formula One team ever. You want 2023 Lewis with all of the stuff that Max wouldn't even kneel. You want fucking Max in that team.
Go on then. I'm
not saying that's important. Whoever thinks whatever they believe. I'm just saying
we will hold it. We're gonna have to argue it, chaps, because it's in my top 5. Go on, and let me go through quickly and try to stage it. It is gonna get
crazy things.
I'm telling you, it's gonna get chaotic, but I'm gonna argue for it hard and fair. Watch this. Okay, my number 5. I am the orders are techie now, lads. Pit stops at number 5. Been a nonsense, an absolute shambles for the longest time. And when Chauvelin's coming out and saying something so nonsensical as what you just quoted, Shez, I'm not even sure that pit stop should be higher. Like that, I think it should be higher. Anyway, number 5 for now. Number 4, strategy. For all of the aforementioned examples that you both have cited. Number 3, Max Verstappen, no sign. Take that to the bank. Shez, give me your number 2, bruv. Number 2 to number 1, and then we're gonna have to get some consensus, lads, because it's gonna get techie.
Okay, so number 2 was moving James Allison away from frontline technical director. Especially when a brand spanking new set of regulations was about to come out. The reason I say that is because they already know from the 2016-2017 changeover that actually having a bit of consistency means that that you can sail through that. You're not having to work out a new technical system.
Donate it, Shez. Donate
hierarchy or whatever. So that's number 2. Okay, fine. I don't need to argue very much about that. And then number 1. And this seems to be my new bandwagon at the moment.
Go on.
I think the Toto and Mercedes should have appealed whatever happened.
Fair.
2021.
Techie. Save it, Nasha. So you've got your all right. So Shez is number 5 in order. 5 to 1. Pit stops, strategy, comms, moving Allison out to Ineos Britannia, and then AD appeal. Or lack thereof. Nasha, give me your 3 to 1. This is gonna get mad in a minute now.
Okay, not in any particular order, but
sorry, just 2 and 1. I think I know. What was your 3, Nasha?
I didn't really give you a 3. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about that. I'm just gonna give you a couple more.
Go on.
The decision not to move away from the side pods at the end of last year and to carry on with the no side pods this year was just crazy. Like, for them to be fooled by Brazil and to carry on that clearly. And whatever it was, whether it was a side pods or whether it was a floor or whatever, right? Whatever concept that they're talking about that had the W13 being so bad and then kind of deciding to continue with it into this year and then having to basically do one test in Bahrain and realize that this is bullshit and have to change it and waste another year is just honestly just ridiculous. And then maybe controversial.
Go on.
Lewis Hamilton, Baku 21.
Oof. Are you going number 2 or number 1 for that?
Whatever. 2 or 1. I don't care. Whatever you want.
Go on.
We can
let's
put
go
it.
back.
Lewis Baku 21.
The old brake magic. Don't hate it. That is bad.
I'm sorry. Like, I love Lewis. Like, no one can talk to me. I've literally built a whole platform out of being the first pro Lewis Hamilton platform in the world. No one can chat to me about Lewis Hamilton.
Love it.
He knows that he fucked up that day. We know he fucked up that day. There's like, it is just like in the context of that season, of course, again, because I think some people need you to like spell it out every time you mention it. So Lewis was robbed. Okay. Whether you like it or not, Lewis was robbed. However, that situation, that's 25 points. That is 25 points. Like, and no matter how you spin it, it was his fault. And like, yeah, I think it's like a colossal mistake. And honestly, I think the first mistake I'd seen him make for a long fucking time. I mean, maybe Imola was that season as well, wasn't it? So
Yeah,
I think
Imola turned out all right.
Imola turned out. Imola.
Lucky.
We lucked out with Imola. Mate, that was not good. It doesn't even feel nice saying that, but
championship costing. I'm about to start welling up. Nasha, have you got any more for me, big man? Are we going to put that at your number 1?
Well, to be fair, like my other ones were all like strategies. So
examples.
like I put like Hungary 2021.
Oh man.
Hungary 2021 was indefensible. Whoever's fault it was.
And are you not Abu Dhabi non-protest not in your top 5?
Lewis asked them to not protest. I think we're gonna
need to go on this one.
Look, I think at the end of the day, like Lewis asked them not to, and I think I'm not going to speak over the person who was most egregiously done over by that. And I think also ignoring what he's asked you to do in the name of doing it for him, I think there's a lot of tones and things which are overstepping with that. Secondly, from my understanding, going to there was, if not the likelihood, there was a possibility of being not allowed to start the season if we're in like the appeal process with the sport of arbitration or whatever. And that's just not a realistic outcome for a team like Mercedes. Like, you can't not be in the season protesting. And, you know, at the end of the day, as much as I want them to, they're not freedom fighters. They're a multi-billion-dollar fucking capitalist company. And, you know, as much as I'd love them to fight the good fight, I think you have to know who you're supporting when you're supporting them. And that's not Mercedes. So for me, I get it. I do. But I think that it was just never going to happen, especially if Lewis said he didn't want to do it.
All right, cool. Fair play. Don't hate that. But again, we're going to have to relitigate some of these points in a minute, Nasha, when we try to get a top 5 consensus. My number 2, and this is going to get, here's where I turn into troops and start cursing some really bad words because this makes me angry. I think you cited it already, Nasha. You talked about the 2022 car, but for different reasons. You talked about the design philosophy, a couple bits and bobs, sub notes that I've written about the 2022 car. Again, like you said, following through, carrying forward that design philosophy, that ostensibly failed design philosophy to 2023, and not learning from 12 months worth of data and porpoising and instability. The rear is absolutely, it's cardinal. Shouldn't do that as an 8-time constructors championships. But here's where I will see you that, Nasha, and I will raise you this: stopping the development of the 2021 car mid-season in the heat of battle to focus on a 2022 car, and then bringing that zero pod design is the most cardinal thing, the most nonsense thing that I've ever seen in F1. How you are in the middle of a close battle. That thing went down to the wire, right? Abu Dhabi at the start of those guys were level on points. How dare you have the technical arrogance to do this? Oh, let's divert our reason. Win this one. A bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Win this one first, and I will never forgive them lot for doing that. I'm going to argue hard every single day for that one to go in the top 5 and high up there. Number 1 on my list, Abu Dhabi protest. The lack of
guys.
Nasha,
come on,
Nasha, I hear what you're saying, bro.
guys.
I catch this.
Let's talk about this like adults and not
hear,
like. Do you know what I mean?
Nasha, I hear what you're saying. You've made very good points about not overstepping. If Lewis didn't want you to do it, then don't. You can't veto over another dude's circumstance. He was burned by this the most. Even before that said, Nasha, that they didn't follow through, at least on the protest, still burns.
But they couldn't.
So, well, maybe they couldn't have.
They fundamentally couldn't.
But I tell you what, Nasha. Argue fundamentally couldn't had the roles been reversed, because anyhow those circumstances reverse them. Anyhow that had happened to Max Verstappen, Christian Horner would be up in that court.
Can I say
protesting
something
now, Nasha?
Can I say
still
something?
Go on.
Let me say something, because this is something I didn't say on the last one, and I wish I had. Do you remember, Cameron, when you would do something naughty and you were like, oh, but my friends were doing it, and your mum would be like, oh, if your friends would jump off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? The reason she was saying that, not because obviously following your friends doing anything is stupid, but also likely some of your friends have different privileges, and some of your friends have different lives and different circumstances than you do, and blindly following them or trying to do what they would do is likely to lead you into more danger or issues or problems than it would for them. Red Bull, one, as a team, have a different operators than Mercedes do. They can, and to be fair, maybe the biggest mistake is Mercedes losing their political grip on the sport and allowing Christian Horner to be able to weasel. That's the issue. But once that horse is bolted, it's gone, right? So saying that Mercedes should act in exactly the same way as Christian Horner and Red Bull would do, they do not have the clout to do that. They do not have the gravitas to do that. And I think Red Bull in themselves, Red Bull were always willing to gamble ridiculous things for wins. They would like do ridiculous strategy, even if it meant putting their driver on the wrong tire, if it meant like a 1% chance of them winning, because they were just like in 3rd place, 4th place, whatever. And of course they would have tried to protest that fucking once in a lifetime, because we didn't know what the 22 cars were going to do, opportunity to win the title. And maybe they would have got something, maybe they wouldn't. But trying to say that Mercedes should have acted, and also the perception of Max Verstappen and Christian Horner is very different to the perception of Toto Wolff and especially Lewis Hamilton. And I just think that we have to remember the political things that were at play and the wanting to have Max Verstappen come through and be the new star. Like, if they thought there was a chance that they would win in court, they would have taken it. They got strong strong assurances that if they did that, it would have meant being like chucked out whilst that appeal was happening. And then Lewis said, look, I need to move on with my life. And I just think we have to respect that, guys. No?
Oh,
I think this is
After you,
bigger.
Shez.
I think this is
take
bigger.
it. Shez, save it, bruv, because we're going to have to argue about getting these into top
Okay,
five
yeah.
consensus. Save it. All right, look. So common. So the ones that we have in common on our respective lists, 22 car. Me and Nasha have got that in for different things, but same overall thing. Abu Dhabi appeal. That's a common denominator. Communications. I know I don't have communications. Oh, this is techie now. Strategy. Me and Shez have got strategy. Let me have a look at Nasha's Niki Lauda replacement. Is that going on, Shez? That's techie.
So the Niki. So look, the Niki Lauda one. I think that fits in with my Abu Dhabi one. Because I think there's so much wrapped up in that Abu Dhabi appeal, so much to talk about.
All right, so so go on then. Give me the headline. Give me the wrapping, the framing, Shez. If Niki and the Abu Dhabi appeal, what are we talking about? A lack of strategic assertiveness. What are we?
A lack of political nous, right? Is that the exact thing that Nasha is talking about the way that Mercedes feel that they need to be perceived, is the exact reason that they didn't appeal, and the reason that Lewis was ultimately robbed of that 8th title, which he should by rights have, right? And it's then perpetuated through lots of other decisions that Toto has made, because I feel like there's no balance in that team. There's just him trying to do things for the good of the sport, which is, bollocks.
All right, fine. Okay, here we are now. So let's move on. Shez, is there one of your? I'm going to read out the list, the consensus list, as a conglomerate of each of our 3 lists. 2022 car design philosophy. Abu Dhabi. Well, it's not Abu Dhabi appeal now, anyway. Is it? It's lack of political nous. Okay, lack of political nous. Strategy, pit stops. We've got room for one other. Argue the case for one of yours, Shez.
It was the Allison one. So the reason I like that one is because look, I can't blame Mercedes for the way that they managed the development of the 22 to 23 car. Once they already had it locked in.
Are you mad, Shez? Hold on to that one, Shez, because I think 2022 car is a consensus one, so that has to go on there. Here's what you're arguing for with moving Allison. You're trying to argue that over 2021 Baku. That's what you're arguing over.
I'll take
Brake Magic.
I would take that.
Brake Magic has to go on there.
Yeah, I would argue. So I would argue James Allison over Brake Magic.
Oh, would you? I thought you would. No, this is where it gets techie. What? Tell me why.
Didn't James Allison have a hand in designing the 2022 car? Then he went on leave. Like, that's my understanding. Like, he was there until 2022.
He was
a hand in the car.
I think he was. I think it was more the 21 car, and then he was already sort of handed over to Elliott et al.
Do you know, we know the history of James Allison, right? This guy came to Mercedes after a heartbreaking, bereavement with his partner when he was at Ferrari, and he's always said that one of the best things about Mercedes is the space they've given him to allow him to kind of grow and get over that. And one of the things that helped him with that was finding someone else. And it's he said it was impossible for him to have like a fulfilling relationship with such a full-on job, and him being able to take a step back from that was like essentially having a second chance at love. And as with quite a lot of the things that we've kind of discussed in here, like, there is the absolute side of things, the way that we as fans look at things, and then maybe this is my HR background, but then there's like the human side of things, and there's the people side of things, and the management of people. And as much as we might get a Toto for certain things, one thing he is good at, I would think, is man management in a way that manages people as as people and not as instruments of warfare. And I think allowing James Allison to have a life, I refuse. I actually point blank refuse to put that on there.
Oh,
there's other mistakes. There's other. Look, let me tell you now. He's back. The car's not that much better. Like, the whole team's buggered in terms of this concept, and I think we would have seen pretty similar things, right? I think Lewis was saying I was the only one saying this car.
That tells me that there's an issue with the technical way that they with the technical structure that they had there, and the reason that I think. And am I arguing for this over brake magic? Is that what I've said? Like, what were the other options?
There are three contenders, one of which sticks out a mile to me, but that's my subjectivity.
Wait, is it? It's Baku, not communication, is it?
Baku, no, comms is enough. Oh,
that for me can probably go.
Comms, but we've wrapped that up over lack of political nous, right? So here are your three contenders for the final spot: Baku, Allison, Verstappen, no signing.
Oh, mate,
get Verstappen out, bro.
Yeah. I don't need Verstappen in
there.
Get
that out. Get that out.
I'll definitely put James. 1. Yeah. No. Sorry.
Not messing about. How very dare you? But that's a mistake, chaps. Let me pitch one last time on Verstappen. The next one, the driver of a generation. You both can't rock up to Mercedes-Benz Petronas AMG board meeting and justify with a straight face, in good faith, why you didn't sign Max Verstappen, the dude who would take your team to the next level long after Lewis Hamilton was retired. Because I'm not sure with Max Verstappen still in a car that's even reasonably fast, that George Russell is that guy that can usurp him. Talk to me, Shez.
Cameron, are you talking about recruiting Max Verstappen in 2016?
Bruv, I don't care.
But
how can you? But if you're an organisation, right, you can make these things work. Nasher is a HR guy and knows that key personnel sometimes get signed and go on gardening leave for 2. There is a way to work this thing, right? You didn't have to sign him in 2016 and throw him straight in the car with fire-breathing Lewis Hamilton.
But
like,
that's
not
what they didn't sign.
But this is what I'm saying, Nasher. There is a way.
That's an impossible dream to live. The impossible dream. That's what you're doing, Cameron. Like, it's impossible. They wanted to do that. They couldn't do it. He went to Red Bull. They stuck him in an F1 car at the age of 16, and then they promoted him to a race-winning seat a year later. It was not possible.
I will say this finally, Nasher. Look, if you can, sorry, Shez, I'm going to throw to you quickly after this. If you can have George Russell in a Williams for however many years he was, and then promote him to the Mercedes Petronas AMG seat. How can you not do that with Max Verstappen? Not doing that, not sorting out make it happen. If you are that team and you understand the importance of having Max Verstappen, the next generational driver.
Putting Max and Lewis in the same team.
After, bruv, make it whatever. Make it happen. It's that
chaos.
Important. But you guys want to throw it out, and you're gonna have to. No, you're gonna have to bear. You're gonna have to bear that. That's a bad mistake. Strategic errors, the likes of which we'd be seeing at
Mercedes are doing a diversity drive right now, and they're trying to get kids from underprivileged places to come and work for them. And do you think that's going to work when they're like, oh, come and meet our drivers? Oh, Max isn't here because he'd rather drive in his fucking sim racing trucks. Next fucking question, bro.
Make it happen, Nasher. You boys are missing a trick here, but I've been overruled. The consensus.
F1 is more than just driving cars.
That's good.
Go on, Shez, quickly, and then we'll go on to the next one.
It'll be quick. The fact is, in 2016, you had Max Verstappen, who's been
said already. I'm not saying 2016.
It doesn't even matter, man. Even now, it's a guy that's being pushed by his dad, who had not even taken the F3 title. He'd been beaten in an equal car by Esteban Ocon, and everyone will talk about how unreliable that season was for him. But he was beaten that year. Versus George Russell, who wins F2 in his first season against Lando Norris and Alex Albon. Sorry, mate. There's no competition.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think that's chaos.
One F3 in his first season, one F2 in his first season. That is a prodigy.
That's
the only people who have done that recently: Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, George Russell.
Like, you have to have that guy in your car.
You literally, if you're taking a punt on some Dutch kid in braces over George Russell, like that is
madness.
It's
a madness,
chaos.
Bro.
I will go to my grave saying that this
Doesn't
is a
even
bad
make
mistake.
sense.
This is a bad mistake, lads. You guys have missed something. What, take Max Verstappen off there instead of?
Please do.
Nah, you guys are ramping. Anyway, I will defer. All right, so Baku or Allison. So I think I've got the deciding vote here, and of course, I have got the deciding vote. Nasha,
That's crazy.
I mean, it is your channel.
You want Baku?
I don't know how this show works.
You want Baku? No, we gotta have consensus. Is how this works, Nasha. And Shez,
how's it consensus if you're choosing? That doesn't feel like consensus
but
to
listen.
me.
So we got all right. Look, currently our top 5: 2022 car design philosophy, strategy, pit stops, lack of political nous. So that's 4. Yeah, we've got one final spot.
None of the things that I've said have gone on there at all.
Oh, but that's why that's the point of consensus, I think, Nasha. Nobody picked your bits.
Don't bring me on the show again.
2022 car was on your list, Nasha. What are you talking about, man?
Okay, cool.
2022 car was on your list.
But,
Niki Lauda replacement, political nous. That's on your list.
Okay.
Strategic
He
errors.
wrapped it up.
You gotta do it, man, because we've been fighting too long. Strategic errors is on your list, and now break magic potentially because you're fighting for that, and Shez is fighting for Allison. Oh, this is tricky. You know, I'm gonna put break magic. You know what this feels like, Shez? It feels like, remember we were talking about Abu Dhabi 14. Abu Dhabi 14 or 13?
Yeah, it was 14.
Yeah, 14. It feels like because Baku was just like a bigger, more seminal moment. Ostensibly, I'm not saying that behind the curtain, Allison's like the impact of Allison not being there wasn't more of a difference, but just to eye test from what my eyes can see and what I can judge on categorically. Baku was a flipping big moment. But go on then.
Can I fight? So
respond very quickly.
So my counter to that is Baku was a single event in time that had a very immediate consequence that was actually nullified towards the end of the season anyway, right? That actually needed.
That bit I disagree with. I complete that second piece that you said there, Shez, that it was nullified. Well, no, it wasn't nullified because obviously Lewis ended up losing the championship. But had he had those 25 points, and again, this is massive butterfly effect. You don't know what could have happened.
Yes,
but tack those 25 points on. And the whole thing could have been different. Let's go back.
Yeah, but we can talk about the 0.2 millimeters in Brazil. Maybe they should have appealed that a bit harder and not been sent to the back of it. So all of those things add up. But ultimately, he got to the end of the season and he won that race essentially without a massive sidestep by the race director. Right. Whereas I feel like the James Allison thing has a longer. Has more far-reaching impact.
I'll take that on board, but you're not convincing me, Shez. Baku is going on our top 5. So our top 5 consensus, 2022 car, Baku, strategy, pit stops, lack of political nous. There is your 5. What's the order, chaps? This is going to get techie now. At number 5.
Oh, now we're doing the order.
Nasha, this is what I'm saying, man. You better argue.
How do you guys do this every week, bro?
This
is very intense.
Mate, it's chaotic, but it has to be.
Bloody
right, these are things that we care about. Go on, I'm going to pitch you guys on Verstappen's side. No, I'm joking. Number 5. I'm going to go Baku at number 5, I think. I think that's probably the weakest
that's fair.
one.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, then, cool. So we've got our number 5 by consensus. And then in at number 4, I am saying pit stops. And then
I'm not mad at that.
What are the ones after that?
Pit stops, strategy, lack of political nous, and 2022 car.
Yeah, I think pit stops probably 4th is
bang.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, because
so
it's
got consensus 5 to 4. Happy. Number 3, chaps. I'm gonna go. Let's go strategy, because those other 2 ones are absolutely humongous. It's number 1 and number 2 where we're gonna have arguments, I think. Strategy at 3, and then I am going. I think political nous in number 2.
No, 2022 cars got to go first.
Nah.
Do you know why?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying
so
2022.
So you guys are gonna say
no 22. No, 22 cars got to be number 2.
Negative.
Yeah, agreed. Yes.
Negative. You boys are ramping.
Number 2.
No, I'm not having it. I need
Political
to
now
stop
covers
it.
so much. The cost cap fucking breach.
Yes.
No one said anything.
Yes.
We just fucking accepted it and rolled over. Yes. The 22 car is on us, and that's whatever. Political nows covers, if you want, Abu Dhabi. It covers the Brazil fucking whatever. It covers so much. Like, it covers so much. And it's actually handicapped us. And it's for the last 3 years, and it's still handicapping
and
us.
It's pervasive of that team. It's what defines us. And it's what I keep telling you, Cameron, man, that the glory years of Ferrari were characterized by Ross Brawn saying, we are not here for the good of F1, we are here for the good of Ferrari. And Christian Horner has taken that on, lock, stock and barrel. But for some reason, Toto thinks that we need to be the better man. That's nonsense. It's just nonsense.
I don't disagree with you, Shez. I don't disagree with you. But as the single biggest mistake, not taking into account some of your longer term perspective, as having the single biggest impact on all of where Mercedes is and who they are right now, that 8th. Can you just imagine? Let's reverse it for a second. Supposing they'd not diverted resource out from the 2021 car into the 22 car. Supposing they continue to develop that. Because remember, this was 21 was marginal gains, right? It was close. Seeing the landscape in 21 the way it was, and still diverting all of their resource into that 2022 car.
By the end, though,
they did
absolutely
enough.
criminal.
They
chaps.
did enough. They did enough.
They did enough. How, Nasha? What are you talking about?
The last 4 races, they were by far the quickest car.
They did enough.
No, but this is the point that I'm making to you, chaps. You can't just say. You can't look at it in that micro way, Shez, and say, well, in the last 4 races, they caught up. To win the championship,
they were ahead.
Right then, Shez. But how about you? How about
some distance?
Cool over the last 4 races. But how about you do that when you needed to do it, like in the penultimate last 4 races before then? Because you needed it. What do you mean they did it? So
Silverstone was where they changed the car to a point.
So they sacked it off, and then they saw, oh my God, let's soup up the engine and do all this other nonsense. So they did it in the last 4 races. But how about the 4 races before that? You can't, chaps. Let me just say this quickly. You can't when sport is close. Don't fight any of these battles with a Max Verstappen and a Red Bull and a Christian Horner with one hand tied behind your back. That is the best way, the easiest way to lose that championship. You don't do that, and that's what they did. And then not only did they lose that championship, you know what, Nasha? Let me tell. But look, Nasha, there were
as a freak of nature.
No, hold on.
It was an act of God.
Hold on, Nasha.
That stopped it happening.
I hear what you're saying. Ultimately, when you look at it, if you look at Abu Dhabi as a microcosm and just say, well, Michael Massey got involved, and but for that, Lewis would have won. Cool. But we've already discussed this. That for me is a very linear way of looking at the championship, right? How about Baku? How about Imola? How about them not developing the car? That could have given them the advantage they needed to make the Michael Massey thing not even of consequence. And therein lies my problem, that they didn't continue to develop that car in real time in the middle of a battle of battles, right? One of the closest battles that we've ever seen in F1, and then kicked that resource into a 2022 car that didn't ultimately work. I'm sorry, chaps. That has to be number 1. Shez, hit me, bruv.
No, I can't. The problem that Mercedes had wasn't about development. They had a was winning won the first, won what 4 or 5 out of the first 6-7 races. The problem was that the regulations had changed for that season, so the normal development program wasn't gonna cut it, but it did anyway. No, Lewis turned up in Bahrain with a car that should not have won and won. He turned up to Portimao in a car that shouldn't have won, and then had a bunch of lucky escapes as well. And then from Silverstone onwards, their car was at least as quick, if not quicker. And we've done the maths on this. We've done the maths on this over the course of the season. We've done the super times. We know that the Mercedes was the quicker car.
But develop it and make it quicker, Shez, is the point.
And they did. So all you can do.
But Shez, they didn't, because they came on record and said that they were going to divert resources. No longer were they developing the 21 car. On record, Shez, they were going to focus on developing the 2022 car.
But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, man. And from Silverstone onwards, they had a car that got quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker, to the point that in the last 4 races, they were significantly ahead of Red Bull. I don't know what else you can expect from your development program.
But Shez,
so they didn't win in Mexico. Were they going to win in Mexico?
Shez, this is what you don't. Shez, you nailed. This is the case.
But that was on Bottas.
On Bottas.
Even without Bottas, they were not going to win that race.
All I'm saying, listen to it. Well, no. How do you know, Shez, is the point I'm making to you.
Two cars between...
This is all hypotheticals, because those victories weren't... It's not like Max Verstappen was 300 miles down the road at Mexico.
He was in Mexico.
At Mexico. How about Cota? That was close, yeah?
So that was tight. So I agree with you there.
As a good example, that's the perfect example then. How do you know that had they not diverted their resources into 2022, how do you know that they would have won? Biggest mistake. But you know what, chaps? Since you boys are both making the mistake of a lifetime and saying that political nous should be first, I've been outvoted and you man have veto. Very upset at that though. Max,
I just
2022
think
car.
I just think
chaos.
That it's more overriding than obviously like last year's car. Like we're talking about two different sets of regulations here due to political nature.
But we're talking about the 8th Nasha is what we're talking about.
No, true.
And what could be bigger than that. But you know what? You boys want to make a mistake. So this is our official list. Baku at number 5, pit stops at number 4, strategy at number 3, number 2, 2022 car, and lack of political nous at number 1. There is your top 5 mistakes from Mercedes in the modern era. That has been another Shakedown podcast. Thank you so much to my co-host, Shez, my co-host, Nasha of Quick Stop F1. Go and check out that podcast. It's not a bad podcast. It's not a bad podcast.
All right. It's all right.
Market leading settings. Go and check out that fella and Tandy doing big podcasts, and Tasha and Mario, big podcasts every single week available on all podcasting platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff helps. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, do me a favor and scroll to the top, leave us 5-star review. It all helps. Until next time, remember to look but never stay.